Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Marty Winkle, my co-producer for over 275 episodes now, Marty, is here with me in the studio, and we've got a mixed bag to kick off our week. We're going to talk about unidentified aerial phenomenon that you know as UFOs. A direct congressional report was released last week. We've got 4 astronaut birthdays. Wow, you're going to love each and every one of these astronauts. Played a big role in our American space program during the Shuttle era. And we're going to do a little bit of star knowledge here at the end of the program with Curious George. What does Curious George have to do with stargazing? We are going to find out that here at the end of Stay Curious. So glad that you're with us this week. We've got some guests planned throughout the week, and we'll release those a little bit later, but wanted to kick off this week with what a fabulous Falcon Heavy launch last night. Hope that you all saw it on your favorite media to watch your launches. One of them is Spaceflight Now. Of course, SpaceX's website had the launch on there. And going to put up a photograph here from CB, old Carlton Bailey. Took this beautiful liftoff shot from about 3 miles away with a handheld camera that he had over there at his privileged spot to be at there. Thank you, Carlton, for sharing your pictures. Marty, you saw this beast rise at 5:56 p.m., right in the middle of the twilight. Pretty spectacular, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was nice.
What did you find nice about it? There's Carlton. As we look at Carlton's flame shot there, is that triple barrel Falcon 9, 3 rockets start together, sending a very important spy satellites or communication satellites for our spy versus spy network. But what did you like about it, Marty? How about this gorgeous clouds that it created?
Yeah, that's what I liked about it.
There's the separation of 2 of them as the third one trucked on, and good shot, Carlton, there. And then this is one of my photographs as the sunset light was catching the initial plume that went up. The rocket is going further and further and created a blue plume in the colder atmosphere as it's trucking away from us there in what we call the jellyfish at the bottom, or tadpole looking structure. We hadn't seen that in a while, and these are usually the phenomenon during the twilight shots. And here's just an amazing photograph from ASM friend Gary Studi. Gary's captured the tadpole there at the bottom. That's the Falcon 9 with the payload heading down range over the Atlantic Ocean. And at the very top up there, Marty, at the peak, you might point that out, are 2 little bright areas with plumes coming out of them. That go up a little higher.
I gotta grab it again.
Oh, he's trying to grab it again. Those are the 2 Falcon 9s that landed at Landing Zone 1 out of Cape Canaveral. They're great shot, Gary Studi. Thank you for sharing this. We shared this on our Facebook page. But right in there's the 2 that are coming back. So you got all 3 elements there. And then there's the tadpole look, Gary Studi's shot. And then Carlton got the landing. And the landing was pretty much in dark. When this higher altitude was catching sunlight from the sun, but the landing was pretty much in deep twilight, so you don't see the actual vehicles there, just the bright light. Still awesome. That's a great view to go see on YouTube or SpaceX, the actual landing of those 2 Falcon 9 rockets side by side. So a lot of fun out there. Thank you, Bill Whiting, for inviting me to watch it at your facility there. Marty, you were with some friends of ours at another good place there. So just off and running again in 2013 or 2023, I mean, with 2 launches already this year. 57 was the launches last year, and I heard somebody say that there may reach 80 launches at Cape Canaveral Space Force and Kennedy Space Center property this year. One of the launches, two launches we're going to be looking at, is the crewed launch of the Boeing with Butch Wilmer, commander, and Sunita Williams going up with him to the space station to check out that Starliner spacecraft. We need that to work. And Marty, yeah, bingo, there I am. I was mesmerized with this gorgeous backdrop we have of the shuttle silhouetted against our Earth's atmosphere there. I didn't even notice I wasn't on there, Marty. So that is one of the greatest photographs of all time. I forget who took it. I'll ask Nicole Stott if she knows when we see her at the Astronaut Memorial that we'll be talking about the rest of the week. 2 weeks from Sunday is our memorial of our fallen heroes, and you'll hear all about that on Stay Curious. So, yes, off to a great start with rocket launches on the Space Coast. Come on down, everybody, and see them. You want to plan your vacation at the very beginning of a rocket launch because, like, a lot of people were here for Saturday and unfortunately had to leave either on a cruise or other destinations or go home. So a lot of people were upset that they got scrubbed Saturday. But perfect liftoff on Sunday. That's why they scrub so that everything is right. They don't want to launch until things are ready. In fact, launch director Mike Leinbach, hi to you, Mike, if you're watching, launched 37 shuttles, and Mike said his job was to keep the shuttle on the ground until 22,000 checks lists were checked off, and then he gave it the go. Well, Marty, something happened last week that we didn't have time to talk about that has the word UFO in it, and everybody ears perk up when you hear UFO. But today, in the 21st century, we're calling them unidentified aerial phenomenon. Well, what happened last Thursday was the government office in charge of UFOs, or UAPs, released the annual report it's required to do to Congress. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, they call that the ODNI, released an unclassified version of the government's new report on UFOs. The annual report stems from a law that also requires the ODNI to send Congress a classified version of that report. So the unclassified report has a new batch of sightings to the, and here is the place that researches all these, Marty. All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Okay, the ADARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Can't make this stuff up. Well, they reported a steep rise in unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs. And let's just get our MIMS going here, our little slides there. UFO, the unidentified flying objects, are now called unidentified aerial phenomenon. And this has sprung because the government has finally called these unidentified objects security threats. They have been invading the airspace during practice maneuvers for the Navy and the Air Force. They've been observed very detailed on photographs, and we had a wonderful speaker, Ken Verderami. Ken did a report on UFOs last October. He did one back in the spring on us. He is actually worked at Area 51, and Ken told us what we could about it, and I'm going to repost Ken's web link for our program he did on our YouTube channel. I'll repost that so you can go directly to him. What he basically says is, when you see the fuzzy pictures like the one I'm going to show you here in a minute, they have very detailed, clear photographs of all of these objects. Some of them, and he held his hands up, we can see detail this wide on the side of these things. And what blows their mind is there's no surface features that would show any engines or exhaust systems. There's nothing that has any aerial surface maneuvering wings or rudders or flaps on these things. So, but that we're not going to talk all about that. We've got 4 astronaut birthdays to get to here. But the new numbers show a steep rise, all right, last year. When they formed this all-domain anomaly resolution office, they had just 144 reports covering a 17-year period. Well, now they have 510 reports at the end of August last year. Many of the objects, 366 of them, were figured out to be regular phenomenon. A lot of drones, a lot of balloons, once in a while a bird or water or weather phenomenon. Even the planet Venus was said to be a UAF. But 195 objects had shown unremarkable no, wait a minute. The ones that are unknown are over 150 objects, okay, are not categorized. And these are the objects that, cause a lot of concern to the safety of the military. Here's the report from a Pentagon general, Pat Ryder. Here's what I got to show you that I've seen a few UFOs, Marty, in my day. Up there when I was in Tennessee, that's our Bays Mountain Observatory. And it was not uncommon to see 2 or 3 UFOs just pass on by there. But here is the official Office of the Directorate of National Intelligence and the report to Congress last week on unidentified aerial phenomenon. And here's the table of contents, scope and assumptions, government changes to the management of the issues. And they're really keeping up with this, okay? And then you've got the reports. Many of them, many cases remain unresolved. In fact, over 100 of the 500 that are now categorized are unresolved. All right. The Pentagon Press Secretary, Air Force Brigadier General Pat Ryder, had this to say. The Director of National Intelligence delivered to Congress the annual report on unidentified aerial phenomenon, and now they're going to call them unidentified anomalous phenomenon, ANOMALOUS. So they'll even make it hard to pronounce. UAPs, as required by the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022. Analyzing and understanding the potential threats by UAP is an ongoing collaborative effort involving many departments and agencies, and our department thanks the Office of the Director of National Intelligence for leading a collaborative effort to produce this report, as well as the other contributing departments and agencies. The safety of our service personnel, our bases, installations, and the protection of the U.S. operations on land, in the skies, seas, and space are paramount, it says in this report. And we take reports of excursions into our designated space, land, sea, and air spaces seriously and examine each one. So they're leading the efforts to drive rigorous scientific investigations, data-driven approach, with a physicist as the head of the all-domain anomaly resolution office, and they are actively telling the public there's things out there that are unclassified. We don't know what they are. There's even objects that go in from the air into the ocean. Okay, the increase of reports from over 350 reported just last year. They believe the rise in the UAP reports is due to the U.S. government's efforts to destigmatize the topic of UAP and instead recognize the potential risks. It poses an aviation hazard and a potential adversarial hazard, such as foreign surveillance efforts. Now, our friend Ken Verderami, he basically discounted that, 1, they're not from China or Russia. All right. 2, they're not from the U.S., or we would have known all this. It would have leaked out somehow. So they have to be something that we don't know. And though they're not using the word alien, okay, The report does not use the word alien, but weeks before the report was issued, journalists asked two senior officials whether their work had turned up any anomalies that might signify beings visiting Earth from outer space. Well, the undersecretary of all this says, no, we don't have anything. We haven't seen anything that would lead us to believe these objects are of alien origin, if you will. Well, that means they'd have to be from Russia, China, or the U.S., because we're the only technological countries on Earth that could even build these things that defy the laws of physics. Ken Verderami has told us that he thinks they're drones because people would get crushed by their sudden stops and movements and stuff like that. So something that we're going to keep our eyes on, to the sky literally, but it is very earth-shattering in some ways that our government is now being more open about this. And this is one of these views from a fighter jet with a UAP that was well documented in a video. And they basically said, this is not Photoshop. It is a real surveillance camera doing this. But what they've done is they made it fuzzier, according to our friend Ken Verderami. He said, when you see something that the government releases, they're going to release the most fuzziest, the most indistinct thing that you can find. But they know what this object looks like pretty close up and in great detail, and they're just not saying. So keep your eyes up the skyward like I do. And you know, at this stage of my life, Marty, I'm just saying, come and get me. I'll tell you everything I know, all right? Let me just ride in a alien spaceship one time. So, Marty, how does this all smack to you?
Well, you said the government said it's not aliens, but I think maybe what they're saying is it could be androids, robots.
Yes, it could be androids, robotic drones, that sort of thing, exactly. But now that it's messing with our airspace, and when you see Ken's Stay Curious episode that was on October 5th, 2022, go to YouTube, just put in UFO or Ken Verderami, and you'll find this, and I'm going to put the link up on there. Well, enough of the UFO stuff. We definitely have some wonderful birthdays to celebrate. Let me get, oh, Marty, what did I do with the, I left one of my birthdays over there. And embarrassed by this one because well, let's just go wing with it. Very popular birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday to astronaut Shannon Lucid. Shannon Lucid was born in Shanghai, China, from a family military family. There she is a few years ago. Happy 80th birthday to this lady. Born Saturday, which would have been the 14th of January. We wanted to make sure we didn't miss saying happy birthday to her. 80 years old, okay? She, of course, spent 188 days on the Mir space station, had 3 other shuttle missions. I left her bio over there somewhere, Marty. I'm not going to worry about it because I may have stuck it back in my file folder there. She was, of course, one of the first 6 astronauts chosen of the female corps there. There as our 6 first women astronauts chosen. Sally Ride, of course, took the first ride to space. Judy Resnick's, where is Sally Ride? Oh, she's in the back right there beside Judy Resnick.
Yeah, I think that's Sally right
Yep.
there.
Shannon's on the far right. She was kind of one of the larger of the women there. And who knows what they're standing beside there? I do. You know, Marty, what they're standing beside?
That's that escape bubble thing.
Yeah, that's the personal life support ball that you were supposed to get your body into that, had a handle on it, and a little canister of oxygen to keep you alive while you were carried maybe from one shuttle to the next. This was a safety valve that was developed and never used in space. Here's Shannon on the cover of Newsweek magazine. She was 53 at the time. She has the new right stuff, they called it there. Wow, Shannon, thinking about you, wow, 27 years ago, doing all that on the Russian Mir space station. And here she is floating around the space station there. And then in her Russian, she did go up on a Soyuz. Marty, we had over 60 shares of this post on Facebook. What a popular lady, and I hope that I can see her talk someday at a Kennedy Visitors Complex or maybe at some other event. Heck, we're going to try to get her our Shuttle Fest one year here while she can still do it. But happy 80th birthday to Shannon Lucid, a true American treasure and inspiration to women and men everywhere. Well, we got some other happy birthdays that we posted today. On January 6th, 3 shuttle astronauts share a birthday. And there they are, all 3 of them. Michael Coates, born in 1946 in Sacramento, California. You got Blaine Hammond, is celebrating 71 years of age today. He was born in 1952 in Savannah, Georgia, but considers St. Louis to be his hometown. And then Jerry Lininger, born January 16, 1955 in East Detroit, Michigan. And he spent 143 days in space, including 132 days on the Mir space station. So he and Shannon share that, and they're just born 2 days apart. He also Lininger rode on STS-64 with birthmate Blaine Hammond. Isn't that cool? And then, so a little bit about each of them. Here is Coates, Michael Coates, born in Sacramento, California, once a pilot and twice a shuttle commander, and he was the Johnson Space Center director for 6 years. There he shows in his suit leading the Houston operation. 6 years from 2006 to 2012. Coates was a pilot on 41D in 1984, and he was a pilot of the first pad abort, all right, which was had to be pretty hairy. And then he was a one-time pilot and a two-time commander, STS-29 and 39, both satellite delivery missions, 18 days in space. Then he was training as commander for his third command of STS-61H. It was canceled after the Challenger accident. And he was the 10th director of Johnson Space Center. Our second birthday boy today is Mr. Hammond there. And he and Mike Coates flew on STS-64 together. L. Blaine Hammond, Lloyd is what the L's for. He was a Gulfstream test pilot and a United States Air Force officer. His first mission was 39, a Defense Department mission with, like I said, Mike Coates as his commander. And then he was on STS-64 aboard Discovery. And what did 64 do there? That was a flight following 64. I've seen what he did with 64. Can't pull that out of my hat right now. Oh, yeah, there it is. Look through. I was thinking, that was a solar retrieval science satellite, robotic arm, first use of lasers, experimental research on there. So happy birthday to you, Blaine Hammond. And then, going backwards there. Blaine is one that you can't find him in street clothes. That's kind of interesting, Marty, as I look around for pictures of our retired astronauts. His missions were 1991, so in 94, so he hasn't worn that in about almost 30 years. But I didn't find any pictures of him in street clothes, did I? I think I did one, but I didn't show it. All right, there we go. That's Blaine. We're going backwards there. And Jerry Lininger, Dr. Lininger, a motivational speaker. He's written 2 good books on the astronaut experience, Off the Planet and Letters from Mir. Former naval flight surgeon, board certified in preventative medicine. He, of course, he was on the Mir space station when they had a fire on board. We've been talking about Mir, of the 2 shuttle missions that went to Mir in the month of January, and we talked about Jerry Lininger last week on that. Catch those shows on Facebook and YouTube channel there. So he's a Navy Med Corps, and Here he is in street clothes. Old Jerry Lininger there. Um, he's trained at Star City, of course, to be one, and he was the first astronaut. He was about the third to go on the shuttle. I mean, on the Mirror uh, in 1997. All right. And during his stay, he became the first American to conduct a spacewalk from a foreign space station, and in a non-American spacesuit. He wore an Orlon spacesuit. So uh, he retired from NASA and the Navy, and he lives with his family in northern Michigan. There, you Michiganders up there. So he might be talking in your community, and this is why we celebrate astronauts and their birthdays. Him being born in Detroit, of course, he's probably living around his hometown area up there. But they're doing great things in our society to promote space awareness as well as inspire the next generation that we need space to go off this planet and keep our species alive, quite literally. So happy birthday to you, sir, Jerry Lininger. Now he's maybe our astronaut wrangler. Nick Thomas will get him out there to speak one day. So, well, finally on Stay Curious today, Curious George. Let's get curious, huh? Could be our mascot for Stay Curious. Everybody knows the little monkey Curious George that a lot of us, maybe one of the first books we read. From one generation to the next, he becomes he has a tail, and sometimes he doesn't have a tail. But let's get curious with Curious George. And what does Curious George have to do with astronomy and space? Well, his creator there of Curious George, H.A. Rey, was a popularizer of astronomy. He was a New York writer of children's books, but he also liked astronomy, and he liked taking the traditional star patterns of constellations and making new stick figures out of them, or stick figures or things of what they're supposed to represent. And here's his book, The Stars, written in the 50s. I've had a copy of this for many, many years. Busy Monday here, so I didn't get to grab my copy of this. So what did H.A. Rey do to kind of popularize astronomy? Well, right there you see Gemini the Twins is his on the cover. And traditionally we look at Gemini as this sort of shape, where you've got Castor and Pollux, the two brothers. This constellation is just to the left of Orion the Hunter now, and there you see Orion on the map, or it's just to the north or to the left of Orion. So that doesn't look too much like twins or brothers, so he just interspersed connecting the dots differently. So there you've got two brothers holding hands with two legs on it. Makes it maybe easier for people to understand all of the stars in the constellation. And the constellation Leo the Lion traditionally looks like this in most books. It's outlined as a lion. It does kind of look what it's supposed to look like. We'll be seeing Leo rising in about a month or so. At about 10 o'clock at night, you'll start seeing this backward question mark, as I've called it for years, and the bright star Regulus coming up in the east. A sure sign of spring when you see Leo. But H.A. Rey took Leo the Lion, the traditional form, and outlined it like this to look more like a lion. So not too much difference there, but you get the story. Very popular book, The Stars by H.A. Rey, who invented the character Curious George. So hope that you've all stayed curious today with some astronaut birthdays, a great space launch that we relived. And this beautiful image of our shuttle behind us here, Marty. Going to give a shout out to everybody watching today. Oh, quite a long list today. We got Tom and Mark Usiak, of course, and they had a warmer weekend than we did, Marty, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Don't worry, boys, it's going to be 80 degrees by Thursday and low 60s, so we'll be back to normal, and all these Floridians will be putting their heavy coats on standby. Robert Law, good to see you watching up in Dundee, Scotland. William Whiting, thank you for opening the doors to your beautiful place up there, Bill. Hope to see you in our museum this week. Neil 1030's watching. Doug Forrest watching in Los Angeles. Cynthia Rossi, you had some great photographs, young lady, that I saw on Facebook. Paul Forrester's watching. Steve Hammer, Gary Gerald, Tom Celentano, Melissa Pope, Mikey Haddad. I got Mikey's doing the last day of the month, and he's got 3 shuttle payloads he's going to be talking about from the month of January. So I'm looking forward to that, Mikey. Joyce B.K. Abbey. Cliff Watson is in Pomona, Australia. Cliff, how it's warm down there. You been to the beach? Plus, it's always interesting that Orion's upside down and the moon's upside down. Good friend of mine, Cliff, and a great supporter of Stay Curious. He regularly sends us a buck or two. That's what those stars are about. And you can have your account debited a little bit to help support us. And Melissa Pope, did I mention her? So we're all glad that everybody's getting their week started with Stay Curious. Please tell your friends to watch us on YouTube or Facebook. Over 10,000 followers on Facebook at the American Space Museum. 5 years ago, we just had 500. So it's all because of you embracing our museum and what we have to offer on social media, but also many of the names I rattle off here have been in our museum and know how hard our director, Karen Conklin, is doing to keep STEAM programming here. We got a fabulous STEAM program rolling with Darren Roberts is the teacher of that. Last week, every day, we had about 30 kids in here on 3 different shifts. Darren handles 10 to 12 kids a shift there, giving him some great science like you see on Saturday morning TV. And the kids are loving it, and we're loving seeing kids in our museum with their parents. So we're keeping that going on and just getting ready for our astronaut memorial, the 29th, that we will be broadcasting on Sunday at 1 o'clock for you out-of-towners to watch. And then April 15th, we're having Shuttle Fest 2, where we're going to have speakers of note talk about the wonderful shuttle era and hopefully attract at least 200 shuttle lovers to the Hyatt Place Hotel where we're going to have it, where we had it last year. So great. Anything else, Marty? Excellent Streamlabs job today. I'll try to do better tomorrow with some Stay Curious history of space and maybe some more astronomy news like we snuck in today on you there. So until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette saying, come visit our museum, book your vacation. When you do, book that launch at the beginning of your vacation because of the scrubs, all right? So until next time, I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.